that the shooter was Salvador Roma, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that has not yet been confirmed according to the most recent report. The governor there, Aaron, giving a few more details.
And crucially, according to Governor Greg Abbott, 14 students at Robb Elementary School were shot and killed. A teacher was also killed. The suspect also shot his grandmother right before entering the school. This 18-year-old is said to be a high school student at Uvalde High School who goes into to Robb Elementary School, shoots 14 students, killed a teacher, and we're still waiting to see just how the conditions of everyone else that's involved.
Those details were yesterday, only a few hours after this attacker went into the school, shot up all these kids. So the numbers have changed. We're up to 19 children have been determined dead and 2 adults. I'm not sure if the second adult, but the one was that teacher that they were talking about there. So this happened in Uvalde, Texas. I'm sure you guys have heard about this whole thing, but we'll go ahead and get a quick breakdown here. Just another mass shooting at an elementary school in America. This one carried out by an 18-year-old. I think he was a student at the high school in the area. So as we're going through all this and people talking about the devastation, they told people to stay away from the school. Apparently officers came in immediately, actually confronted the shooter before he got into the school, but he was wearing body armor or some kind of protective gear. And they were unable to stop him, is I think the words that were used, and he went in anyway and then committed his mass murder because this is America. Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, where this happened, he had words that he was surprised by this entire thing as he spoke at a press conference about it. Watch.
First, I want to tell you that what happened in Uvalde is a horrific tragedy that cannot be tolerated in the state of Texas. And there is swift action being taken by local law enforcement. When parents drop their kids off at school, they have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends. And there are families who are in mourning right now, and the state of Texas is in mourning with them for the reality that these parents are not going to be able to pick up their children. Our job is multifold. First, to make sure we address exactly what happened at this crime scene. And then second, to make sure we take that information and do everything that is necessary to ensure that crime scenes like this are not going to be repeated in the future.
Greg Abbott said he's shocked, horrified, and he said these things cannot be tolerated in Texas. Think about all those sentences and see what that would mean on the back end of it as we go through this entire thing today. Can't be tolerated, it's shocking, it's horrible, and we need to do everything we can in the state of Texas to figure this out. What is everything that we can? We'll be finding out because previous to this, but after another mass shooting and previous shootings at elementary schools in the country, this same governor loosened gun laws. Let's go through that really fast because there was a new state law. This is this is in 21, it's last year. This article is from that as well. So that's the past, this will be the past tense versions of all of this. A new state law will soon let most Texans, and this is now happening again, carry handguns in public without going through training or having to get permits. Governor Greg Abbott lauded the so-called constitutional carry legislation and other firearm bills when he signed them into law. Quote, "You could say that I signed into law today some laws that protect gun rights," is what he said about the bill in June. "But today I signed documents that instilled freedom in the Lone Star State." There was other things that also the state Texas legislature passed, not just it wasn't just the Governor Abbott part, but also the legislator there. They did this as well. This whole thing was part of a slew of pro-gun legislation that lawmakers passed last year, but it was this year at the time. Other measures pressed include a bill that would bar government contacts with those who discriminate against the firearm industry as a whole. They passed bills that would bar government contracts with those that would discriminate against the firearm industry as a whole. I just had to say it again in case you guys didn't really catch that. One that would remove firearm suppressors from the state's list of prohibited weapons, and a House bill that prohibits state and local governments from enforcing new federal gun regulations. You can't even do it. Texas, quote, "Texas is finally a pro-gun state despite years of foot dragging, roadblocks, and excuses from the spineless political class." That's what Texas Gun Rights Executive Director Chris McNutt said in a statement after Abbott signed this bill. He continued on, "I'm proud of the work grassroots gun owners have put into get Texas constitutional carry finally signed into law. Really weird. One more thing really fast, Francesca, before you get into this, because there's a lot here. But fine, that's the governor and that's the lawmakers there in Texas. How about the attorney general? Maybe there's someone in Texas that cares about human life, specifically children's lives. There's a bunch of Republicans down there. I keep hearing them talk about it. Let's check out what Ken Paxton, the attorney general down there in Texas, had to say with his damn campaign shirt on and his solutions to what would happen. Fresh off of this happening, watch.
What can you tell us has been talked about in the past? What has been implemented and what hasn't been?
Yeah, sadly, this has happened again, and it's a horrible tragedy. But the types of things that we talked about, and I'll never forget it after the Santa Fe shooting, was having one point of entry, making it more difficult for people even to get in that point of entry, make sure that they and having potentially teachers and other administrators who have gone through training and who are armed, because first responders typically can't get there in time to prevent a shooting. It's just not possible unless you have a police officer on every campus, which for a lot of these schools is almost impossible. So I think you're going to have to do more at the school, because it typically involves very short periods of time, and you have to have people trained on campus to react.
So we're on this same vein of time to arm teachers, time to arm administrators, time to arm janitors, time to arm the cafeteria workers. And also, let's have one entry into the school. And let's put up bars, let's put up fences, let's have dogs at the front, German shepherds ready to bark and sniff all your backpacks. These things have happened in other American schools, by the way. This isn't brand new, but those schools are prison-like. And they're on lockdown situations. But apparently we want to spread that to everywhere. Francesca, what are some of your thoughts?
That's a really important point. And it's an important point that Democrats, I wish more Democrats, especially the ones in leadership, would take up and say, what is freedom actually when you talk about the Second Amendment? Is it the freedom to buy an AR-15 on your 18th birthday, which this gentleman seems to have done? There were a couple of AR-15s found at the scene. It's unclear whether he used them to murder nearly 20 children and 2 teachers. But the question is, or is freedom the ability to go to school without having German shepherds and bars at the door and having to do drills to see if there's a mass shooter and having police officers everywhere, right? Is that freedom? Is it freedom to go grocery shopping in a store in Buffalo? Is it a freedom to go worship? Is it a freedom to go to the mall, to go to a movie theater? I mean, come on. What is actual freedom in this country? Or are we persistently in fear of people who are more armed than we are? And let's be real. The specifics of this particular shooting, one of so many, are that he went into one classroom. Gee, I don't know, if you didn't want him to kill so many people, maybe you have smaller classroom sizes. You know how teachers have been asking for decades? No, he goes into one classroom, is able to mow down 20 kids, nearly 20 kids, and what? Oh, you want an armed guard in every single classroom. Is that the only way that you're gonna fund education? By adding armed people, by training? Is that the way we're gonna move funding from the police into schools? Hell, man, maybe that is the only way. It is insane, JR. We're still here, man. After all these years, we're still here. It's a detachment from reality. We talk about, let's think about the makeup of schools and funding. So you're gonna put armed guards at every school, first of all. And then they're gonna, this is some random guarantee that this is gonna stop folks that run up in the school. There were police officers that confronted him before he got into the school. Not even armed guards, police officers. These are the folks that the right wing puts their entire trust in, right? Why couldn't they stop him? Why couldn't they stop him? How come he still went there and did it then? Apparently, this idea makes no damn sense whatsoever. Before we jump into this next one, because I want to point out this one thing, and this is what kept me up last night. I saw this about. Put up the tweet, please, you guys. Put up the tweet from Dylan Carter, please. This is Xavier Lopez, and he was 10 years old. His family confirmed that he died. Every time you talk about this stuff, you guys, put his face in your mind and understand he doesn't experience anything else that you're experiencing right now. His family, his parents, and his whoever else was near him
We'll never hear his voice again, never see his face. We don't know what he was going to be. We don't know anything about this land of opportunity that he lived in that gave him no opportunity. We don't know any of that. We know that he's been killed. So when we go to this next block and talk about the takes that some of these people had, by the way, we're bringing the takes that people had. I want you guys to have his face in your mind. And every time you talk about it, every time you argue about it, every time you say, hey, maybe we should put some armed guards in front of the schools. Hey, we should arm his teacher. We should loosen gun laws. People don't have enough gun freedoms in this country. What did our founding fathers want to do for this kid? Since we care about what they think. They wanted him to live, or maybe they didn't. How about we stop worshiping our founding fathers like they're deities?
Yeah, guess what? They're dead. They're gone now. And that kid, he was alive. He had his whole life ahead of him, just like 18 other of his classmates had their whole lives ahead of them. They had heartbeats. All right, if the Republican Party's so concerned about life, as soon as there's a heartbeat, oh man, as soon as there's a heartbeat. What about when they're born? What about when they go to school? I mean, it's in the families that are gonna have to grieve and the loss. And I know, I feel your pain, Jayar, and I'm not even a mom yet, man. But this is what families should never have to go through. And if you are a parent, I think you feel it tenfold on this.
I want you guys to, sorry, Francesca, I'm sorry, finish, continue.
No.
I want you guys to understand that the folks who lost their children yesterday, it's not gonna stop. I said this after the last one. I said this after Sandy Hook. I said it after the shootings up in Michigan. And it was like a high school, I believe. They're never going to see them again. So when you say what you say, imagine that you're saying it to them. Yeah. Imagine that you're telling this little kid, say he survived, and he goes, I'm afraid to go to school. What should I do?
Yeah.
And then tell him how much you want to hold your gun to your chest.